will treat your vehicle like it's your mother's. Doesn't get any better than that. So call 402-488-8934 and HIS Auto will make you glad you did. 5% off, mention this ad, and for sure your mother will be proud you called. 402-488-8934, HIS Auto Care, 70th and Van Doren. God bless you.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call Bryant at 402-467-1111 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-467-1111.
Hello.
Angela, we have to break up.
But why?
Because you're a robot and I'm just a guy trying to get better internet.
It's Allo Fiber, isn't it? I always knew you wanted faster speeds. My contract isn't good enough for you.
Face it, Angela. They let me talk to real people.
Press 4 to break my heart. Oh wait, you already did.
Visit allofiber.com to switch today.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. This is the Happy Hour.
You guys going to happy hour?
Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America.
Yeah, I'll come for a couple.
Here are your hosts, Nick Sainert.
I am a huge guy.
And Enrique Alvarez Clary.
C is for chunk.
Brought to you by Empire Fence and Netting on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
That is right. Welcome in. It is the happy hour for 2 days. For 2 days, it is the happy hour while Adam Carricker is out the rest of the week, and that means that it's Nick Sainert here and Rico over there. What's up, Rico?
Hello.
It's been a while.
It's been a hot minute, as the kids say. I think the kids still say that. I don't know what the kids say.
As you can tell, we're excited to be back. Hopefully you guys are as well. 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline, and the Starter Heyman text line are open for you guys the entire show today, as well as the Starter Heyman Jewelers live video stream. That is Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Allo Channel 961. Got so much to talk about. Obviously, a lot of college football playoff games over the last 24 hours. There's a big one getting ready to start in a little less than 3 hours, and unfortunately had to get suspended because of all the tragic events in New Orleans. So our thoughts, obviously, with the entire community, and man, some scary stuff going on around the entire country. And so let's just hope for the best going forward as one. But once again, 402-464-5685. We have some exciting things to discuss over the course of the next two shows. We'll have plenty of Husker basketball conversation tomorrow because Nebraska hosts number 15 UCLA on Saturday at 1 p.m. But other than that, I mean, it's going to be a good and a quick show. It's going to go by really, really fast because, man, some of the football that we've seen so far, not only in bowl season, I even admitted that in the early days and early games of bowl season this year,
were you watching?
I wasn't paying attention to it. I wasn't paying attention to some of the lesser bowls, but now I find myself gravitating towards the like the guaranteed rate bowl on Monday. And obviously a part of that is because there's some bigger schools in there. But as somebody that always loved like the group of five, I feel myself transitioning to this.
Are you becoming an elitist?
I think I'm becoming an elitist.
Oh, no, Nick, you're better than that. You're better than that. I love the small bowl games. I always pay attention to those. I might not give it my full attention, but those early December or those like mid-December, early December games, I love watching those. Again, with teams that you haven't watched all season, maybe some of the MACtion teams that you watch on a Tuesday or a Wednesday whenever the MAC decides to play their games during the regular season. Those are my favorite games. And obviously, you know my feelings about the Pop-Tart Bowl and how fantastic that is. I mean, that was two big-name teams that had qualms of getting into the college football playoff towards the end of the season, didn't do enough to get in there, but that Pop-Tarts Bowl was electric. And I love all of the smaller bowl games because it's teams that maybe you don't hear of all that much. And also, if you think about it in this way, it could be some guys playing for those teams that could end up playing on those bigger teams that are playing on those New Year's Six bowls because they have a decent season. They have a big bowl game. They enter the transfer portal after the bowl game, and then they're playing at Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State after that.
That's what's so fascinating is because you can just tune into even a playoff game. And I've noticed this on the Ohio State and Oregon game, and then also on the morning one of Arizona State and Texas. There was multiple recruits on both sides that had Arizona players who played last year at Texas, and then flip-flopping it. The ones that played or were playing on Texas were from Arizona State, and they were standing out. And I'm like, there's got to be some sort of pregame, like, I want to beat these guys so bad because this is my previous team, no matter whether or not the coach treats you well. Like, we always talk so much about that ad nauseum of coach treats you well, so there's no hard feelings when you leave. That's part of the business nowadays. But still, there's still that underlying competitive piece in I think all these athletes at this level that want to beat their old teams so bad. But
I mean, it was that defensive end from Arizona State that got the sack in the first.
Right.
Just came off the edge like a speed demon, got by the pulling guard and brought down Quinn Ewers. And like, it was at Texas last year. Look how excited he is to be playing for Arizona State right now. And then you get to see Jeff Sims sitting on the sideline looking at the tablet. Shout out to Jeff Sims making the play.
Which I was reading an article, and this was actually really good, by Max Olson. Used to be at The Athletic, now with ESPN. And he actually wrote an article about Jeff Sims, and Jeff Sims is going to come back for another season at Arizona State.
Look at that.
It's an article that he actually kind of dives deep into when he was at Nebraska, but then after Nebraska, he enters the portal and his phone was dead silent. I mean, let's be honest and let's be realistic here. Jeff Sims didn't have the greatest of years. And so that's what happens a lot of these times is some of these athletes can think, I went to X school and that school has a pretty notable name, and so my phone's going to automatically ring because if I was good enough to play at that school, then I'm good enough to play at other places. Well, when you have 2,000 plus students thinking that, or student athletes thinking that, guess what? The pool runs dry after a while, and the phone does not ring as often. So through it all, I think Jeff Sims, he said it. He goes, listen, my phone wasn't ringing. I didn't know if I was going to find a landing spot. And ultimately Kenny Dillingham, who just a day before yesterday's quarterfinal playoff game signed a 5-year extension with Arizona State. He ends up reaching out to Jeff Sims, and Jeff Sims comes in with a clear expectation and understanding that you're probably not going to get to play a whole lot. You're going to be the backup to Sam Levitt, who is probably going to be on some Heisman boards at the start of next year.
Sam Levitt looked good.
Sam Levitt looked good.
Remember when there was a time when Sam Levitt almost came to Nebraska?
I would go as far as saying Nebraska was the favorite landing spot for Sam Levitt at a time.
That would have been, so that was at the time after Dylan had committed, correct?
Before.
Okay, so it was before Dylan had committed. Because it was with the Will Howard as well.
That's right. As soon as the transfer portal opened, Sam Levitt was one of the first quarterbacks Nebraska contacted. As soon as the portal opened, he was a freshman from Michigan State. And I know for a fact, was very interested in Nebraska. Then Nebraska also with Kyle McCord. And I was having this conversation with Sipple, actually, when I filled in for Jake on early break a couple of days ago. I had the conversation with Sip. I said, man, think about Nebraska's quarterback approach last year in the portal. You had, number one, Sam Levitt, who played well in a playoff game yesterday as a younger guy.
He took his team to the playoff.
But then you also had Kyle McCord, who breaks the all-time single season ACC passing record and leads Syracuse to a 10-win season. And then also you ended up flipping a 5-star, and that's who your quarterback of the future is. And I had to preface it with, this is not in any way a knock on Dylan Raiola. I'm saying, but look at we always talk so often about the ability to identify talent. And in this day and age of college football, coaching staffs, coaches, recruiters, they can't miss. There's no margin for error because it's a win now and a results driven business. And if you don't win, and if your players aren't playing well because you're misidentifying talent, well, then guess what? You might not be a coach for very much longer.
I'd like to say that Nebraska's offensive staff was sitting pretty would have been sitting pretty with any of those three quarterbacks if they wouldn't have been able to flip Dylan and they would have got Sam Levitt or Kyle McCord. I think Nebraska would have been sitting pretty. And shout out to, I know that it's not popular, But shout out to your former offensive coordinator for identifying that type of talent and attempting to bring them in, and then having the ability to flip Dylan Raiola. And I understand it wasn't all him, but having the ability to flip a Dylan Raiola from Georgia to go to Nebraska. So shout out to Nebraska's offensive staff for eyeing the talent, seeing the talent that was available, and ending up with a extremely talented quarterback regardless.
Once again, 402-464-5685, Honda of Lincoln hotline, the Starter Heyman text line open for you guys the rest of the way here. We're here until 1 o'clock. We'll also be on the air tomorrow, Rico and myself, from 12 to 1 as Adam Carricker's out the rest of the week. Adam back on Monday, though, so if you're tuning in and wishing that Adam was on the airwaves instead of us, we understand. However, he'll be back on Monday. So, all right. So once again, building off of that conversation, though, Nebraska, they go out, they get another wide receiver through the portal, another Kentucky guy. It was also just released that he was cited for a misdemeanor offense over the course of the last couple of days. And that wide receiver that I'm talking about from Kentucky, teammates with Dane Key, obviously was under the tutelage of Nebraska's current wide receivers coach,
Hardly Gilmore the fourth.
DeKel Shorts, Hardly Gilmore the fourth. And so not as much production certainly as Dane Key was, but still a younger guy that's going to have a couple of years remaining. And I know Austin's going to have this conversation on his show, so I don't want to take away his segment, but Nebraska has been very active in the wide receiver game and through the portal with 1 year guys, with 1 year remaining, whether that was, going back to Scott Frost with like Conavai Noah, whether that was Billy Kemp, whether that was this year with Jamal Banks, Samari Toure in years past. It doesn't matter.
Trey Palmer technically had multiple years, but you weren't expecting him to stay that long.
And while that there is value in that, there's also a lot of excitement with bringing in guys that have multiple years remaining. And sure, we're going to have pushback on the text line, or people are listening wherever they may be and saying, well, guys, you think about what we just talked about in the transfer portal. Guys don't stick around for more than 1 year or more than 2 years. You can't operate, though, under that mindset of, all right, let's go get an Isaiah Hunter if you're Nebraska, with the understanding of next year, if he has a good year, he's going to move on. You can't operate under that mindset. You have to operate with the thought process of, Isaiah Hunter, you can come in here and be a 3-year starter, and we're going to put you in the league. That's the mindset. So as
3-year starter at worst, it'd be great to have him for 2 years because that second year he blew up.
And so as guys that cover the program or are around it and affiliated, we have to operate under that mindset when we're talking to you guys as well. And so I guess when I look at wide receivers or skill positions, and is it alarming that Nebraska maybe hasn't gotten an offensive lineman in this class? Yeah, I think so. I'm okay with saying that as well. But let's also be realistic of what Nebraska's quarterback situation in the offense looks like. You have a younger quarterback who's, if he takes that sophomore jump or that second year growth, then there's going to be suitors. There's going to be people that are interested in Dylan Raiola, and tampering's a thing, and tampering is alive and well. And Nebraska has to go out each offseason and continue to put the best talent available around Dylan Raiola.
And with that, if he has that sophomore jump and there's going to be tampering, that's another reason why you can't just go out and go in that win now mode and get guys that are only around for 1 year. You want to surround him with guys who, if he decides to stick around at Nebraska, he'll have for another year. He'll have for another 2 years. Guys that will grow with him, guys that he can work with in practice during the season, outside of the season in the summer when they go down to Arizona or Texas, or they're staying here in Lincoln or going to Omaha and they're practicing. Guys who you're talking about and you're building that rapport with. Maybe they can even be roommates. Everybody talks about quarterbacks and wide receivers being roommates. They could be roommates and have that connection through the year as they grow together and learn together and can get Nebraska back to where Nebraska wants to be. You don't just want to go into a win now mode because, let me rephrase it. You don't want to just go and get those 1 year guys regardless of position, because guess what? If you get them for 1 year, you're going to have to fill that spot again. You're going to want to go out and get guys who maybe you missed out on recruiting the first time around, but they weren't happy with where they were going, or they see the type of improvement that your team is making and they want to now be a part of it. They didn't see it at first, but now they see it after a year and they want to come join you for multiple years, as opposed to just coming in for 1 year, doing what they have to do and then going to the league.
There's some real intriguing names around this wide receiver room, and we'll get to some of the other groups on Nebraska's roster that they probably need to address, because there are a few. There are certainly a few. But I feel like the comfort and the excitement around the wide receiver room has maybe shifted in a positive direction. Obviously, there were a lot of comments and feelings about Garrett McGuire while he was coaching the wide receiver room. There was a lot of feelings about Marcus Satterfield when he was overseeing the entire entire offense. But through the portal, Nebraska's gotten some real intriguing pieces, and yeah, they've lost a couple along the way. Isaiah Nair's working through some logistical things. Looks like Louisville might be the landing spot. He's going to officially visit there today. Isaiah Nair is. And Jalen Lloyd, I think a lot of people got freaked out because of Jalen Lloyd. I'm not trying to downplay this here, but once again, going back to the facts that we know, Jalen Lloyd, very, very good track athlete before Evan Cooper and Matt Rule got here a couple of years ago. That was going to be and that was going to be what Jalen Lloyd did, was just run track. And
there was one school that offered them both, and that was Texas Tech.
And so while I think we need to remember that the production wasn't there at its fullest and maybe what we expected, and I think people take it a little harder because he is a guy that came from Omaha West Side. However, going forward now, look at some of these names. It's an experienced guy in Dane Key, a guy that had production at Cal, and Isaiah Hunter. Ja'Cory Barney Jr., I still think is going to be the number one target in this offense for Dylan Raiola as a sophomore.
It seems like there's a really good connection there.
I think Sipple announced a couple of days ago that Carter Nelson is probably going to move back to tight end, and so they feel good about this wide receiver room. This feeling on the wideouts has kind of shifted, and maybe it's because there's a new voice in the room in DeKel Shorts, the former Kentucky wide receivers coach, but through it all, like Cortez Mills is one that we expect to probably make some strides in his first year in Lincoln. Isaiah Mosey, who's a former Oregon commit, probably going to make some strides and potentially see some time on Saturdays. Demetrius Bell was somebody that this staff was really excited about in the spring, but then got hurt in the spring game. And so now you bring in Hardly Gilmore the fourth from Kentucky, somebody that has a prior relationship with Coach Shorts. Doesn't need to come in and play right away. That expectation Nebraska's got to get away from, of young guys having to come in and play right away, because less than 5 years ago, that was what was needed at offensive line, at skill positions, at quarterback. That they need to get away from that, and we're slowly starting to see them get to that point.
Those guys bringing those freshmen or those transfer redshirt freshmen, what have you, in and forcing them onto the field right away because either you didn't have the talent or due to injuries, could have something to do with some of the delayed improvement for some of those guys, where they flashed really well as freshmen, but since they were forced into the fire and they didn't have time to learn and grow outside of it, that they weren't growing to the level that you thought that they could get to because of maybe some bad what's the word I'm looking for? Bad things that they do all the time. Tendencies that grew and stuck with them because, look, we need you to do this now. So regardless of what's going on, you're going to have to go out here and you're going to have to attempt to get some yards, get some touchdowns, get some catches for us, regardless of how it looks.
We're also seeing a shift in what type of bodies they're recruiting at the wide receiver position specifically. You look around, and Dane Key's a 6'3" guy. There's some interesting names in that room, like a Quinn Clark is listed at 6'5". We know Carter Nelson's around 6'5". Keelan Smith, the son of obviously former Husker Neil Smith, is at 6'3". Jamal Banks was at 6'4". Like they're starting to recruit and shifting from this speed first mentality. While that's certainly valuable, and Ja'Cory Barney Jr. is certainly fitting underneath that mold, they are also valuing height and size. And I think we saw that in where Jamal Banks could be valuable. You look at a Dane Key. He's listed at 6'3", 209. And Isaiah Hunter, I obviously don't have all these memorized quite yet.
I think I have his.
Isaiah Hunter is listed at 6'2", 210.
Hardly Gilmore's 6'1", 178.
So these are now shifting from maybe even prior to Matt Rule, what we saw, where it was 5'10", 5'11" type of guys with 180, 190 pounds.
The shifty guys.
There's something to be said about a guy at 6'3", 215 can actually move. Just they move in a different way than a Ja'Cory Barney would. And there's value in both of them if utilized the correct way. Nebraska, I think, is going to be in a spot next year offensively where Dylan Raiola is going to throw the ball a whole lot, obviously. But on top of that, I think you'd expect to see maybe Dylan shed a few pounds or change his body a little bit and utilize his legs a little bit more going forward. I think that's an element that we saw 2 years ago that Matt Rule really enjoyed, but they weren't able to really implement it that much this next season. And Emmett Johnson at running back, it's almost like I would ask the texters this, 402-464-5684 or 5685, excuse me, as we go to break. What side, with the way that things are now, are you more confident in? Because I think if you ask people at the end of last season, and if we were a year ago on January 2nd, 2024, instead of on January 2nd, 2025, people are going to say defense. There was much more experience there. And I think there was just overall excitement and comfort in Tony White. But now I feel like it's completely shifted. I feel like it's completely shifted into people are going to say Nebraska is going to be able to score 30 plus a game next year. And the defense is just going to have to hold somebody to less than 20.
I might push back on that a little bit.
Let's talk about it when we come back. 402-464-5685. Which side going with the things? And obviously it's a fluid situation. They're probably going to add some bodies defensively. They've been active in the defensive back room. Andrew Marshall, the kid from Idaho, is obviously a part of the Huskers. There's a UCLA defensive back that's going to be visiting. He should be arriving to campus later on today if he's not already here, and will be here through Saturday. So there's certainly some places defensively for John Butler, the new defensive coordinator for Nebraska, that they're going to have to attack at. But which side? As things stand now, where are we at? Cautiously optimistic, however you want to categorize it, let us know. Offense, defense, we dive in, give our thoughts. We also break down college football playoff. We talk about Texas ASU. We're going to preview Georgia and Notre Dame coming up in a little over 2.5 hours from New Orleans. We'll talk all that and more on a special edition of the noon hour. Appreciate you guys joining us on your lunch break. It's the happy hour. Nick Sainert here, Rico there on 93.7 The Ticket.
Follow Nick and Enrique on Twitter at Nick_Sainert and at Radio Rico AC. More of Happy Hour is next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
If you're sick of catering from the same places every month, it's time to switch things up. Mulberry Barbecue is perfect for business lunches and dinners, family gatherings, holiday parties, wedding receptions, rehearsal dinners, and so much more. Delivery and full service options are available, and they can cater for anything from 10 people to 500 people. Call them at 402-937-7114 to look at their menu options and get your catering booked today. Mulberry Barbecue, located at 11th and Cornhusker Highway.
At Farm Bureau Financial Services, we strive to provide you with the right coverages for all your insurance needs by taking the time to meet with you and review what coverages best fit your needs. So whether you're in the market for home, auto, farm, business, life, or a combination of any of these coverages, we can help with making sure you, your family, or your business have the right coverage based on your individual needs. If you would like to review your insurance needs, please contact Ben Spurt with Farm Bureau Financial Services at 402-217-9945 or through email at ben.spurt@fbfs.com.
Outside is where winter adventure unfolds. On frozen lakes, icy landscapes, and snow-covered slopes, feeling the cold air rush by as you race downhill. The freedom of gliding with ease and the warmth of being together. From epic sled rides to the fun of ice fishing, it's all right here beneath Nebraska skies. Start your winter adventure at yournebraskaparks.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Associations and this station.
The Body Lab, located at 14th and Yankee Hill, is Lincoln's premier physical therapy and recovery lab. The Body Lab offers trigger point dry needling, cupping therapy, joint manipulation, and so much more. Looking to relax and relieve stress after a long day or difficult workout? The Body Lab's recovery lab is the ideal spot. Featuring infrared sauna, a cold plunge tub, or if you're just looking for enough space to stretch out and reset your mind. Learn more about memberships and schedule your service today at thebodylablnk.com or visit the Body Lab in person at 14th and Yankee Hill Road.
Finally, a good reason to have a smart house. Just say, Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket, and we'll magically start playing. How's it work? Nobody knows. Don't ask questions.
The McKinney's Irish Pub in the Haymarket is your place for English Premier League soccer. On Saturday, Tottenham plays Newcastle at 6:30 a.m., followed by Crystal Palace playing Chelsea at 9 a.m. To cap off the Saturday action, Arsenal will face off against Brighton at 11:30 a.m. On Sunday, Fulham plays Ipswich Town at 8 a.m., and then Liverpool will take on Man United at 10:30 a.m. You can catch all these matches and more at the McKinney's Irish Pub, your headquarters in Lincoln for English Premier League soccer at 8th and P.
League One Volleyball is bringing the action to Omaha with Omaha's first serve on January 24th at 7 p.m. Central Time at the Liberty First Credit Union Arena. Witness history in the making as Love Omaha Volleyball takes on Love Madison in the team's inaugural home match. Be there to watch Olympic teammates Jordan Larson and Lauren Carlini go head-to-head in a battle of the world's best. Visit lovboma.com for tickets starting at $31. Volleyball is the next major league.
Experience the Landmark difference with the next level of dealer support. Landmark, your local John Deere dealer, continually works to have parts on hand the first time you walk in the door. Our internal route system means we can get the parts to you typically same or next day to keep you up and running. At Landmark, we understand time is money. Get more uptime with our after-hours parts and service support on the phone or in the field. Stop by your local Landmark today to experience the Landmark difference.
Hello.
Angela, we have to break up.
But why?
Because you're a robot and I'm just a guy trying to get better internet.
It's Aloe Fiber, isn't it? I always knew you wanted faster speeds. My contract isn't good enough for you.
Face it, Angela, they let me talk to real people.
Press 4 to break my heart. Oh wait, you already did.
Visit aloefiber.com to switch today.
Empower a child today with a Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting lincolnteammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Rosie Sports Bar and Grill, open for lunch and dinner at 1501 Center Park Road.
You're listening to the Happy Hour.
Are you a big man? Huh? I'm talking to you. What?
With Nick Sainert.
You wake up in the morning, son, put on my big boy pants. Look, I'm wearing a belt.
And Enrique Alvarez Clary.
You put on a little jacket, you go. You take your lunch because you got big boy pants on. You got your big boy pants and your snacks.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
I can say big loud things. I can be demonstrative.
Welcome back in. Nick Sainert and Rico with you. 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline and the Starter Heyman text line, as well as the Starter Heyman Jewelers live video stream, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Allo Channel 961. All places you guys can see what's going on inside the studios, heart of downtown Lincoln, 1040 O Street. Come on down, grab yourself some mill coffee, mill drink, whatever it may be. Our guy Luke is best in the biz. He'll help you out. I just tried their
coffee connoisseur.
Just at the commercial break there, I actually tried a chicken salad sandwich.
Yeah,
from there. Pretty good.
Solid.
It is good. I highly recommend it.
I like the breakfast burritos. They're pretty good.
Yeah, they have these. They have the homemade Pop-Tarts too. Speaking of the Pop-Tart bowl, and they are incredible.
They're first off, they're huge, and they're really tasty.
Yeah, so if you're looking for breakfast, lunch, whatever, or drink, come on down to the mill.
Shout out to the Pop-Tart bowl. Big fan.
So,
although the MVP chose the wrong one. He should have chose wild berry. Who wants cinnamon roll? Nobody wanted cinnamon roll.
We asked the question before the break with the way that things stand currently right now, and on January 2nd, 2025, which side of the ball for Nebraska football do you feel more confident in? And whether it's confidence, whether it's optimism, whether it's concern, it doesn't matter. Just let us know on the text line 464-5685. And there's a little bit of a theme here. MT Westy says offense, no doubt. Unnamed texter says no, not more confident, more cautiously optimistic. It's a pretty much a whole new team. And yes, Dylan Raiola does need to scramble more. Steven says if Satterfield was the offensive coordinator, I would be highly suspect. However, with the wide receivers that they're bringing in, running backs, we have the tight ends, we have Dana. Dana is offensive coordinator. Nebraska should be a very good place offensively. Mark from Cook says, don't forget about Heinrich. He can catch, run, and he is a physical blocker. We saw that in the spring or in the bowl game as well. 4859. Offensive continuity with the main skill guys, the new wide receivers. It makes me excited. But replacing our 5'9" DBs with bigger guys creates some intrigue on defense. Bill and Bennett says the offense is going to be Nebraska's best asset next year. If they don't fix the special teams issue and fill some big holes on defense, we'll be lucky to win 7 games again. There's a lot there. There's certainly a lot there from you guys, and we appreciate the feedback. I think offense, there's some confidence or as texters put it, optimism at the skill positions. I think there is some concern, and rightfully so, curiosity about the offensive line. We know that they're going after pursuing the Falamohu from Washington State, the offensive lineman from the Cougars that's transferred, probably the most experienced portal offensive lineman that's available right now.
Can you say that name one more time?
I cannot. And so they're probably that's priority number one, I would imagine, he's visited Nebraska, and it's kind of gone quiet. It's kind of gone silent in his camp for right now, but I'm sure he's still somebody that they're pursuing going forward. And then on top of that is I think no matter how we viewed Bryce Benhart and, that left tackle position with Turner Corcoran and going forward, and Teddy Prohaska and so on and so forth, they still did have a lot of starts under their belt. You're replacing a guy in Bryce Benhart who nobody in the history of Nebraska football has started more games on the offensive line. And so it's kind of bizarre to think about that and to really put that into your mind. But that's where Nebraska's at. They have to figure out a way to replace that. They have to replace a guy at center and Ben Scott, and you would maybe hope that Justin Evans can fill that void. And Henry Latofsky was seeing some valuable time at the guard position.
But moving Justin Evans over from guard to center then opens up the guard spot.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things of, is Nebraska going to be able to find guys? A guy like maybe Tyler Kanak is somebody that we hear a lot about. But then I mentioned it last segment about the skill position guys and the ability to not force them to come in and instantly play. Give credit to Donovan Raiola, because they've been able to do that. And Donovan Raiola, through the recruiting process, has been able to maybe go out and get somebody like a Micah Mazuka, and while it didn't pan out probably how they expected or hoped for, still gave maybe a Grant Bricks an opportunity to redshirt, or a Gibson Pyle, who we've had on the show a couple of times. Gibson Pyle. Sam Sledge is another name. I mean, those are 3 that are really intriguing to me, Rico, of that. Yeah, they could come in and take some of that weight off of maybe some of the older guys' shoulders.
I feel decent about the offensive line, regardless of them not bringing in any transfers quite yet, just because of what you just said. Having those younger guys have the ability to sit for the year, to learn, to grow, to get bigger, stronger, faster, as the captain always says. And to just sit back and not have to, again, like we said earlier, get thrown into the fire and just start as a true freshman going up against, juniors and seniors who have all of these moves in their tool basket to get around them and maybe break their spirit a little bit in thinking, oh, maybe I can't play at this level. Not saying that happens to people, but it does happen to people, but not saying that's happened here all too much. But that's something that Nebraska can fall back on with how, regardless of what you think, the offensive line improved as the season went on. Regardless of how you want to sit here and say maybe the offensive line wasn't the strength of the team, but it did its job, I would say, more often than not, at giving Dylan Raiola enough time to find open receivers. The receivers weren't getting open all that much, and yes, he was scrambling a decent amount of the time, but I think he had more than enough time more often than not to find open receivers and to deliver the rock. So I think that Donovan Raiola and that offensive line have taken a step forward, and the ability to have those guys sit for a year and now potentially be ready to step into a spot and play as redshirt freshmen it's going to benefit them going forward. But I like I said earlier, I'm going to push back a little bit in I think I'm more cautiously optimistic on the defensive side of things.
Okay.
Mostly because of that performance that they put on in the Pinstripe Bowl. They gave up the 15 points, but they were put on the 1 yard line with the interception at one point to give up one of those touchdowns. But I think the young guys on that defensive side really put on a show and showed to Nebraska fans that they're ready to step up next year.
Yeah, there was an interesting performance. I mean, the encouraging performance from Vincent Shavers, and obviously is going to be up there for a lot of people. I was real impressed with Donovan Jones on the perimeter.
Yes.
Donovan Jones, an Omaha North guy, who was under recruited, 3-star coming out of high school, was kind of one that on the previous recruiting class was kind of buried. People thought about him as a lot of people just naturally do. 3-star from Nebraska. Nebraska took him, in-state kid, but he's somebody that's extremely athletic and was a really good basketball player as well. But when you look at Nebraska's defense, sure, I think up front you feel confident about a guy like Riley Van Poppel as well.
You still got Cam Lenhart.
Yeah, which Cam Lenhart's returning, Vincent Shavers.
Elijah Judy.
That's correct.
He brings back some experience at least.
I wanted to go back on this offensive line real quick, because if I asked you how many sacks they allowed this year on the season, how many would you say?
Because I put it in like the 30s.
Pretty close, 28. Nebraska allowed, well,
that's good.
Nebraska allowed 28 sacks this year, good for 79th in the country. They gave up 187 yards in sack yards, which equates to about 2.5 sacks per game, almost, just a little under that. Which is fine, I think. But also on top of that, I mean, you look at some of these other numbers in some of the other schools, and it's important to remember rushing yards are included in sacks. Like quarterbacks, if they get sacked, it goes against their rushing yard total. So it's important to recognize that if whether it was Dylan scrambling out, that counts as a sack still. But Oklahoma, for example, the Oklahoma Sooners were the worst team in the country at protecting the quarterback. They allowed 50 sacks this year.
Yeesh.
They allowed almost 4 sacks a game. They gave up 300 yards in sack yardage just this season alone. The Oklahoma Sooners did. Some other notable schools that are down there, South Carolina, who we just saw, gave up 41 sacks through 13 games.
Despite having one of the more athletic quarterbacks in the country.
Texas gave up 33 sacks this season. UCLA gave up 34. So
that's Texas with a top 10 pick at left tackle.
Well, there's a lot, because they have Kelvin Banks on one side, who got hurt yesterday. Then they also have another guy on the other side. But look at 20. So in 2023, and this is that consistent improvement that I think Nebraska fans, especially at that offensive line position and group, wants to always see. 2023, Nebraska under Donovan Raiola gave up 30 on the season, and so you decrease those numbers by a couple. In 2022, Nebraska, once again, this was predating Matt Rule, but still under Donovan Raiola, Nebraska was 90th. They gave up 33 sacks on the season in 2022. So you're seeing this substantial from statistical, not just what we see on Saturdays, from a statistical point of view. They are improving at the offensive line. Now they're going to have to replace a couple of key guys, some notable names in Bryce Benhart. Ben Scott comes in and had a good couple of years at center. We never talked about Ben Scott,
which is good.
And that's a good thing to have. And that's a good problem to have. What we are going to do now.
1 second, because when I talk about the offensive line and giving up sacks, did you hear Will Campbell, the LSU offensive tackle? He said, if a defensive end gets 1 sack a game for an entire college season, that's 12 sacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's potentially a first-round draft pick, and everybody loves him, and he's great.
Yeah.
If an offensive tackle gives up 1 sack a game for an entire season, that's just 12 sacks.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you'll be working at Amazon.
That's right.
The difference is stark. And you just think about when you look at those numbers, you're like, oh man, Nebraska gave up 28 sacks this season or whatever it was. It's okay. It's pretty decent. But if Nebraska got 28 sacks, you're like, I feel pretty good about that. I mean, they got more. But
so here's this, Rico. New Mexico led the country in sacks allowed. New Mexico led the country in sacks allowed. How many do you think they gave up all season?
And you said somebody was at like 50. I would say they gave up, I'm going to go 50. It was 62.
The least.
Oh, the least.
The least amount of sacks allowed.
Nebraska was at 28.
Nebraska was at 28, and they were 79th in the country.
There's
going to be a lot of ties.
Yeah, there's a lot of
right?
ways that this could go.
Like, there's a lot of people that have like 18, 19.
Let's go 20.
5. New Mexico gave up 5 sacks all season long.
Holy.
Less than half of a sack a game. They gave up 21 sack yards. Some other schools that are at the top there, Georgia Tech gave up just 9 sacks all season. Wisconsin gave up just 13 sacks all season long.
How do you give up single-digit sacks? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Last year, I mean, how you want to talk about a jump? Last year, Oregon gave up just 5 sacks. This year, Oregon currently sits down lower. If I can find them, they sit. Oh boy, I
Oregon
can't find
gave up
them.
more than 5 sacks.
Yeah, it gave up a lot more
than 5.
A lot more than 5 sacks. Oregon gave up 21. If I remember correctly, though, they had the Remington Award winner.
They did.
So they had to graduate
They
the
lost their
Remington
center.
Award.
He got drafted in like the 5th round.
Yeah, so they gave up. I mean, Oregon was at 48th in the country, gave up 21 sacks a game. Now, a lot of this certainly probably has. I mean, how quick are they able to get the ball out of Dylan Raiola's hands? Because we saw that in the later stages of the season.
The receiver's ability to get away from defenders.
Yeah. Like Dana Holgerson was. We noticed it, especially at like places like in Iowa, and then I noticed it in the bowl game. They worked on getting the ball out of Dylan Raiola's hands quicker, and we saw that actually be productive and a positive change for Nebraska's offense. It allowed Dylan Raiola to stay clean and also maybe get into a little bit of a rhythm early on in the ball game instead of trying to chuck it out. And whether that was hitting Jamal Banks on the deep route right out of the gate, just get it out of his hands quick. And Jamal Banks did a good job of hauling in that pass. Let's take a break. When we come back, Georgia Notre Dame is less than 2.5 hours away. You can keep it right here because I know a lot of us all got to work during the game today, so you can keep it right here on the ticket, and they'll provide updates throughout the various shows on the block and Old School later on this afternoon. But Rico and myself, we wrap things up on a Thursday coming up next.
Download our app by searching 93.7 The Ticket in your app store to stay in touch and listen all day long wherever you are. More of the happy hour is next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Garage doors can break down or quit working at the worst times. At Doors Plus, they understand that a broken garage sometimes means repair and not replace. Sometimes, all you need to make your door like new again is a few bolts, realignment, or even new balance. Trust the pros at Doors Plus to handle your garage door repair the right way so you can get on with your busy schedule. Visit them online at doorsplusllc.com or give them a call at 402-590-5800.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, a slight chance of snow this morning. Otherwise, we'll see partly sunny skies, the high around 35. Tonight, increasing clouds with a low around 20. And tomorrow, we'll see partly sunny to mostly cloudy skies with light winds and a high around 30. I'm meteorologist Kyle Tucker from 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Herrick Services takes this time to wish everyone a happy new year. They are thankful for many things from 2023 and hope that 2024 brings prosperity for you and starts off well for everyone in your life. This important message comes to you from Bart and the folks at Herrick Services, your vending specialists here in Lincoln. Their quality service and expertise has earned them a fine reputation. That's Herrick Services, on the air because they care.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call Bryant at 402-467-1111 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-467-1111.
League One Volleyball is bringing the action to Omaha with Omaha's first serve on January 24th at 7 p.m. Central Time at the Liberty First Credit Union Arena. Witness history in the making as Love Omaha Volleyball takes on Love Madison in the team's inaugural home match. Be there to watch Olympic teammates Jordan Larson and Lauren Carlini go head-to-head in a battle of the world's best. Visit lovboma.com for tickets starting at $31. Volleyball is the next major league.
At Farm Bureau Financial Services, we strive to provide you with the right coverages for all your insurance needs by taking the time to meet with you and review what coverages best fit your needs. So whether you're in the market for home, auto, farm, business, life, or a combination of any of these coverages, we can help with making sure you, your family, or your business have the right coverage based on your individual needs. If you would like to review your insurance needs, please contact Ben Spurt with Farm Bureau Financial Services at 402-217-9945 or through email at ben.spurt@fbfs.com.
Hello.
Angela, we have to break up
But why?
because you're a robot and I'm just a guy trying to get better internet.
It's Aloe Fiber, isn't it? I always knew you wanted faster speeds. My contract isn't good enough for you.
Face it, Angela, they let me talk to real people.
Press 4 to break my heart. Oh wait, you already did.
Visit allofiber.com to switch today.
Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com to get started.
The Body Lab, located at 14th and Yankee Hill, is Lincoln's premier physical therapy and recovery lab. The Body Lab offers trigger point dry needling, cupping therapy, joint manipulation, and so much more. Looking to relax and relieve stress after a long day or difficult workout? The Body Lab's recovery lab is the ideal spot. Featuring infrared sauna, a cold plunge tub, or if you're just looking for enough space to stretch out and reset your mind. Learn more about memberships and schedule your service today at thebodylablnk.com. or visit the Body Lab in person at 14th and Yankee Hill Road.
Experience the Landmark difference with the next level of dealer support. Landmark, your local John Deere dealer, continually works to have parts on hand the first time you walk in the door. Our internal route system means we can get the parts to you typically same or next day to keep you up and running. At Landmark, we understand time is money. Get more uptime with our after-hours parts and service support on the phone or in the field. Stop by your local Landmark today to experience the Landmark difference.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and the holiday sales event is now underway with unbelievably low interest rates and huge discounts on both our new and pre-owned inventory. Right now, we're offering 0% interest rates or $13,000 off select new models. These are the absolute biggest discounts of the year. You heard right, 0% interest rates or $13,000 off select new models. So please stop on in or check us out online at CoppelCars.com. All deals with approved credit, must trade, and Costco.
You're listening to the Happy Hour.
Hola.
With Nick Sainert.
¿Tú eres un bueno worker?
And Enrique Alvarez Clary.
Sí, yo muy bueno worker.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
You speak English? Yes, I'm really good at English. Okay, good. Me too. Get in the car.
It's an important day in college football, not only because of another playoff game, but there's a chance that the SEC doesn't have more than just one team in the semis if Notre Dame beats Georgia today.
I'm a big fan of the SEC just failing in bowl season.
And it's getting to a point now where Arizona State had potential.
Arizona State should have won.
They should have won.
Did you see that kick? Technically, NCAA rulebook, the one that hit the ground and went through the uprights. Technically, that should have counted.
I suppose
it's in the rulebook.
Yeah, if it's not tipped.
No, if the opposing team touches it and it still goes through, it counts. Even if it hits the ground and goes through, it counts.
Well, either way, they still had multiple opportunities to win. Arizona State shoulda, coulda, woulda.
If Scattaboo was healthy. He was throwing up, quote unquote, profusely on the side.
It was kind of crazy because halfway through, and I will say this, the sideline reporters that have been really, really good.
Yeah.
Like so much was made about Joe Tessitore yesterday, and he had a really nice day calling the game. But I mean, shout out to the sideline reporters. Taylor McGregor was one of them. She was on the Arizona State sideline. The biggest reason I know her is because she is the Cubs dugout reporter.
Oh,
she's the reporter from the Cubs dugout. But so she did really good job yesterday. I mean, like Stormy was awesome in the game as well. The Rose Bowl with Holly is always great. I thought sideline reporters did a really good job yesterday. And that's something that maybe doesn't get talked about enough. On top of it, though, was that Arizona State, they announced like in the third quarter that Cam Scattaboo is puking on the sidelines, and he comes into the game and they continue just to feed him the ball. And it was like the classic situation. That was like a Nebraska fans end all be all goal. Like they want to get to a point to where they can line up on 3rd and 1 and say, we're running the ball and you can't stop us. Because that was exactly what, and it actually hurt Arizona State earlier in the game because they would run it on 4th down, both 4th down attempts. Arizona State ran it right up the middle. It was like a halfback dive play, and Scattaboo just did not get it.
No.
Because Texas sold out on the run. But then you saw like a switch flip, and Scattaboo started to become more effective, continued to just drive.
Just went off.
And then, like, should his pass have been completed? No, it was severely underthrown. It was a bad play by the defensive back of Texas. But, hey, it still counts as a touchdown.
You got a receiving touchdown, a throwing touchdown, and a rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
That's why he won the MVP. That was awkward bringing him the trophy during the presser.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, by the way, like you didn't win, but you got this.
The best part was that they said it. They were like, in our entire 20-year career of having a bowl game, we've never had to do this. And they're like, the MVP is on the losing team.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, rightfully so. He had more yards from scrimmage than Texas did. I mean, like there was no other answer.
No, it's
which I will also say, Texas, if they play that same way against Ohio State,
they're going to get smoked.
They're in for a long night. And there was a couple of things. Like there was so much made about the penalties, and Texas deserved to honestly get a couple of those called on them because from the rule perspective, not even including the targeting.
Yeah.
I'm talking, there was a couple of defensive holds. There was the roughing or running into the kicker at the start of the game. There was the pass interference plays. There was a lot false start, just procedural penalties that hurt the Longhorns. But I mean it from a play calling standpoint. Steve Sarkisian calls the plays for Texas, and it was when Texas was having the ball in regulation in the fourth quarter. It was like a minute and a half left in the game, or maybe it was just after it was right after the 2-minute timeout. Texas has the ball, and what they choose to do on the plus side of the 50 is throw the ball 3 consecutive times, and it was 3 consecutive incompletions. It took 16 seconds off the game clock, and instead of having it at a point to where even if they go 3, if they have to punt it away, it's maybe 4th and short from the 40-yard line or so instead of 4th and 10. And also, there's probably about a minute more off the clock.
Yeah.
Or you're forced Kenny Dillingham to call some timeouts. But instead, Steve Sarkisian allowed Arizona State to keep the timeouts in their pocket. And Arizona State had a chance, at least, to go down and win the game. If they would have, if the Sun Devils would have won at the end of regulation there, we're sitting there going, man, Steve Sarkisian, you could have ran that ball. You have 2 of the better running backs in Jaden Blue and Quantravius Wisner, and you elected to throw the ball 3 consecutive plays, burn only 16 seconds of game time.
You didn't put the ball in their hands once. Ridiculous.
It was crazy. What do you think happens? We got to get out of here in a second. What do you think happens with Notre Dame, Georgia? Carson Beck out.
Yeah, I said it earlier. I want Notre Dame to win, but I think Georgia just has the talent all around, and they'll end up getting it done regardless of not having their starting quarterback.
Yeah,
I know where you're going. You don't even have to say it.
I know from an unbiased standpoint, I think Notre Dame gets it done. I think Georgia is going to have to run the ball, and one thing that Notre Dame does really, really well is stop the run. And that Notre Dame defense is even while their offense has been playing well and they've beaten teams handily, it's been a lot because of that defense. They forced some turnovers. They did so against Indiana. They've beaten the last 5 or 6 opponents by more than 14 points. I don't see it going there. I see it being like a 21-13 type of game, but I do think Notre Dame gets it done.
I want to see Notre Dame, Penn State. That'd be really fun.
It would be fun.
But it's going to be Georgia, Penn State.
All right, there you have it. Thanks for joining us. We're back tomorrow at noon. Stick around. The Locker Room next.
Adios.
The McKinney's Irish Pub in the Haymarket is your place for English Premier League soccer. On Saturday, Tottenham plays Newcastle at 6:30 a.m., followed by Crystal Palace playing Chelsea at 9 a.m. To cap off the Saturday action, Arsenal will face off against Brighton at 11:30 a.m. On Sunday,